Bienvenido a mi diario de Inglés Británico, un podcast para hispanohablantes que quieren entender inglés británico con confianza y progresar profesionalmente en el Reino Unido. Soy Shandon, coach nativo de inglés británico. Y sí, también hablo español. En cada episodio hablo en inglés británico real y conversacional, para que practiques tu comprensión auditiva y te acostumbres a cómo hablamos los nativos en la vida diaria. En este segundo episodio sobre el costo de vida en Londres, te doy mi opinión sobre esas cosas que la gente dice que son caras. Como vas a ver, con algunas estoy de acuerdo y con otras para nada. Te recomiendo que escuches este episodio más de una vez. No te preocupes si no entiendes todo. Cada vez que escuches vas a entender más. Vale. Empecemos. Welcome to episode 11 of this British English podcast. Let's practice some English. In the last episode, I spoke about the main things that people think are expensive in London, my city, where I was born and I've always lived. In this episode, part 2, I'm going to give my opinions about what people say is expensive in London. Because there are some things that people say are expensive that I agree with. I agree with them that those things are expensive. There are other things that I definitely don't agree with. And I'm going to go through the 5 things I spoke about in the last episode in order, saying what things I truly think are expensive, what I don't think is expensive, and why I don't listen to some people that say these things are expensive. So let's get started. The first thing I spoke about last time was transport. People say that transport in London is expensive. I don't agree with this. First of all, I would say that trains in the UK are expensive. Yes, that's true. Trains in the UK are ridiculously expensive. For example, to take a train for an hour in England can cost more than a flight from London to Spain, which for me is ridiculous. How can a flight cost less than a train? So trains, I would say, are expensive. But that's not to do with London. That's to do with England and the UK in general. Transport in London, I don't believe is that expensive. I would say that the bus is very cheap. You can travel on the bus in London for £1.75 at the moment. So it's January 2026. At the moment, it's £1.75. And that means that in 1 hour, you can take as many buses as you want for £1.75. For me, that's very cheap. On top of that, I don't think that the tube or the underground is that expensive, especially if you travel outside of peak times. So the peak times are when people are traveling to and from work. So the tubes are busier. If you travel outside of those times, I don't think it's that expensive. Plus, I would say that our transport, our tubes on the underground is fairly efficient and it's a pretty good service. So I don't think it's that expensive either. I don't drive, so I can't comment as much on that part of the argument. But I would say that people should only drive when necessary. For most people in London, it's not necessary to drive. And yes, there are some different fees you have to pay if you drive in London, which can make it a bit more expensive. But I would say that it's recommended to take other forms of transport. Finally, on this point of transport, I'd like to say that it's a very good city to cycle around. In London, we have lots of cycle lanes where you can use your bike and cycle to different places. There are good health benefits for that and just other benefits as well. And it's, of course, apart from the cost of the bike, it's a free way to travel. So that's what I would say about transport. The second thing I spoke about in the last episode that people think is expensive in London is rent. Okay, so the cost of renting a house or a flat. This I do agree with completely. I think some of the prices of flats and the cost of renting a flat is ridiculous sometimes. You hear stories of people paying £1,000 just for a very small room in a house or a flat that they then have to share with other people as well. This is especially ridiculous when those flats or houses are not even in central London. They're quite far out of the centre of the city. Of course, you can find some good deals in London, but lots of rooms which are on offer are a rip-off. This means they're way too expensive, unnecessarily expensive. But I think there's a big problem here in how people act. The problem is that people don't take a stand. This means that they see the higher prices, they get angry and annoyed by themselves, but they don't say anything. And they just pay the money nonetheless. To create change, people have to say enough is enough and refuse to pay these prices. Then things will change. But until then, things will only get worse. Number 3 on the list was food. Many people say that food or groceries in London are expensive. I disagree with this. Yes, the prices of groceries have gone up. However, it really depends what you buy. In my opinion, if you buy natural foods and fresh ingredients, it's fine and things don't become too expensive. Yes, the prices have still gone up, as I said. It is more expensive nowadays, but there's not a huge difference. Also, when you buy fresh, natural foods, you feel less hungry, and so you need to buy less food as well. But what people do is they buy lots of snacks and spend lots of money on snacks. That amount of money adds up. Plus, because it's unhealthy and it doesn't give them the nutrition they need, they then have to buy even more food. So they then end up spending even more money. What I try to do, I try to buy almost completely natural food and ingredients. And yes, my shopping bill is more expensive now, but not that much. Okay, for these next 2 points, I'm going to be very, very frank. Number 4 is about eating out. Yes, eating out is very expensive in London. However, this isn't something to complain about, in my opinion. People complain about the cost of eating out in London because they want to eat out all the time. But this is not how things are meant to be. Eating out, going to a restaurant or a place to eat, is a luxury. It's not something to do every day or even every week. It's something to do from time to time. So yes, of course, it's much more expensive than eating at home. But if you're only doing it every now and again, it's not that big a deal. So it's not something to complain about that much. The final point, number 5, was drinking at bars and pubs. People complain that in London, this is very expensive. To be honest, I have no time for people who say this. I think it's ridiculous that people complain about this. Drinking alcohol is not a necessity. It's as far from a necessity as you can get. Because alcohol ultimately is a poison. It ruins your body and it's not good for you. Especially not in the quantities that people consume alcohol. Especially in the UK. British people drink way too much alcohol. So people go, they buy 6 pints of beer, and then they're surprised that they've spent a lot of money. Beer and alcohol don't provide any nutrients, they're not food, and so you still have to eat food and drink water afterwards. So of course that's going to end up being expensive. In addition to this, if it were really too expensive, people would stop spending money on alcohol. But they haven't. And this is because lots of people are addicted to alcohol in the UK. And as you can probably tell, I don't drink alcohol anymore. I used to drink alcohol, but now I hardly ever drink alcohol. And I don't have plans to drink alcohol. Because, as I said, I think it's a poison. And so to complain about it being expensive is ridiculous. People should be happy it's expensive and stop drinking it. I've also got one very important thing to mention. Salaries in London are much higher than in other places, even compared to the rest of the UK. So of course here in London, people can earn more, and so costs are higher. And so it doesn't make as much of a difference, okay? So salaries in London, for example, are much higher than in Manchester or Birmingham or Edinburgh, other cities in the UK. Now here's the final point I want to make today. Many people in general life, but specifically in London, feel like they deserve to have everything and that they should be able to have everything. This really annoys me. People think I should be able to go out to eat every week, buy fancy clothes, shop online all the time, have a nice place to live, have all the luxuries, and still be able to save and invest money. Of course, some people can do this. People who are rich. If this is you, that's great. That's really great. And you should enjoy your money. Enjoying your money is a good thing. I don't have a problem at all with those people. But most of us aren't rich yet. And so we need to be more reasonable and be more modest with our wants and desires. Okay, so those are my opinions on the different costs in London and whether I agree or disagree that they're expensive. I hope my thoughts were interesting and useful for improving your English and helping you explain your own opinions in English as well. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Gracias por escuchar este episodio de mi diario de Inglés Británico. Ya has dedicado tiempo a tu aprendizaje hoy, y eso suma más de lo que crees. Poco a poco, tu inglés va a mejorar. Si vives en el Reino Unido y sientes que tu inglés te está frenando profesionalmente, te invito a hacer una evaluación de fluidez profesional gratuita conmigo. En esta sesión, analizo cómo hablas inglés hoy, identifico exactamente qué te está bloqueando y te explico qué necesitas trabajar para hablar con más claridad y confianza. No es una clase, es un diagnóstico claro y honesto de tu inglés hablado. Escríbeme por mensaje en Instagram para reservar tu evaluación. Dejo el enlace a mi cuenta en la descripción del episodio. Gracias y nos vemos pronto. Bye.